Welcome, Adarians, to a special mastery guide. We're going to tackle some big challenges today in both math and literacy. And you know what? By the end of this, you'll have a whole new set of tools to build something absolutely incredible with your knowledge. So let's kick things off with a huge question and an even bigger idea. I want you to think about learning like you're building a massive skyscraper. Yeah, it's complex, it for sure takes careful planning, but the results? It's something strong, impressive, and it reaches for the sky. Every great skyscraper needs two things. First up, you've got to have a solid blueprint. That's our mathematics, all the logic, the patterns, the structure that makes the whole thing stable. But, a building is just an empty shell without people. So we also need the stories of the people inside. And that's our literacy, understanding their purpose and their fight for huge ideas like liberty and justice. Okay, let's start with that blueprint, the core concepts of math. Just like an architect's plan, these are the rules that make sure everything we build is strong, stable, and makes total sense. First up, factor pairs. Seriously, think of these as the foundational bricks for all our numbers. They're just the pairs of numbers you multiply to get another number. Like for 6, the pairs are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. Super simple, but absolutely essential. Next, we have multiples. So if factors are the bricks, multiples are like adding entire new floors to our skyscraper. You just take a number and keep multiplying it. For a number like 5, the multiples are 10, 15, 20. You're just building higher and higher. And then we get these really special numbers, prime numbers. These are like the most fundamental, purest building blocks, because they only have two factors, 1 and the number itself. Think of numbers like 3, 7, or 11. They're the core elements in our blueprint. And on the flip side, we have composite numbers. These can be built from lots of different factor pairs, which gives us way more flexibility and options in our construction. They're made up of other numbers. All right, to see this stuff in action, let's grab something really simple, a dime. We all know it's worth 10 cents, right? But how does a builder, an architect, look at the number 10? Now, this is where it gets interesting. We can look at the number 10 in two ways. We can break it down into its factor pairs, those bricks, that's 1 times 10, or 2 times 5. Or we can build it up using its multiples, the floors of our building, 10, 20, 30, and on. See? All right, time for a little divisibility challenge. Look at this number, 27. Let's put on our inspector hats for a second and check the, structural integrity of this number. So here's the question, Adarian. Can we divide 27 evenly by 3? There's a little trick in the blueprint for checking divisibility by 3. Here's a clue. What happens when you add the digits 2 and 7 together? A good architect has to be able to see patterns to plan ahead. An input-output table like this one is a perfect tool for that. It helps us find the hidden rule in a sequence so we can predict what's coming next. And this is where it gets really powerful. Once you figure out the rule, you can predict what's going to happen at any point down the line. What will the 20th coin in the sequence be? What about the 75th? The blueprint gives you the power to know. Okay, we've laid out the blueprint. Now it's time to focus on what makes that skyscraper truly meaningful. The people inside. We're shifting from the structure to the stories, from the math to the purpose. This is the big question for this part of our project. It's not about numbers anymore, it's all about impact. How can one single person actually change the world around them? It's a really powerful idea to dig into. So, to get how people make a difference, we first have to understand what they're usually fighting against. And that word is injustice. It's a big word for unfairness, for when things are just not right in the world. So, what tools do people use to fight injustice? Well, a boycott is a huge one. It's when a whole group of people decides to stop supporting something, like a business or a service, to send a really clear message that they want things to change. It's kind of like voting with your wallet. And a protest is another really powerful tool. It's how people make their voices heard, loud and clear, when they see something wrong and just refuse to stay quiet about it. It's a direct way to show you disapprove. This timeline, this shows perfectly how these stories of change are often told. Authors use text features just like this to show us the whole journey. It starts with an injustice that leads to an action, like a protest. Then there's a critical turning point that hopefully leads to a resolution, real, meaningful change.
All right, to build strong arguments and tell these amazing stories, we have to make sure our own tools are sharp. So let's do a quick skills check before we get to our final challenge.
First, our language tools. Listen to these soft C and soft G sounds. Center, spice, ginger, bridge. Getting these right makes our reading and writing so much more precise and clear. It's like making a perfect measurement on a blueprint.
And let's not forget our grammar toolkit. Remember that helping verbs and main verbs, they work as a team. In a sentence like, she is delivering justice, that little helping verb is tells us the action is happening right now. This tiny detail is crucial for painting a clear picture with your words.
Now, for your final task, you're going to need these 3 powerful vocabulary words: encouragement, qualified, and fulfill. Think of them as the special keys that are going to unlock your final project. And now it's your turn to be the architect, Adarian. The challenge is to find the story of a person who made a difference. Use your blueprint skills from math to give your argument structure, and use your understanding of stories to bring it to life. How did one qualified person, maybe with a little encouragement, fulfill a huge goal? It's your turn to build.